Okay. Hang out this time. What is it? I'm glad you appreciate it.
Hmm?
I'm glad you appreciate it. Okay.
So is there a link for if people can't join, by the way?
I'm trying to figure it out.
Oh, nice.
Stream.
And we want to make sure to introduce the board members.
Yes. Okay. Let's see. Okay, everyone. Great. Welcome to the board meeting, this open board meeting of Intentional Insights. And let me start by introducing the board members. My name is Gleb Zaborski, and I think all or most of you already know me. And that's me. I'm the president of Intentional Insights and co-founder of the Pro-Truth Pledge.
Hey, everybody. I'm Agnes, and I love purple. I'm a co-founder of Intentional Insights and, by extension, co-founder of the Pro-Truth Pledge project here at Gleb and my house, also known as Intentional Insights headquarters in Columbus, Ohio. Thanks for joining us. And we have 2 other board members in other cities also participating.
Alex, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yep. Hello. And I'm another Intentional Insights board member and chair of the Pro-Truth Pledge Political Targeting Committee.
Thank you. And Bentley?
I'm Bentley Davis, board member and chair of the Pro-Truth Pledge Central Coordinating Committee.
Thank you. All right, everyone. So we have 2 parts of this open meeting, as many of you already know, for the agenda. So the first part of the meeting will be a brief update on what's going on with Intentional Insights overall, and that will be the first part. 5 minutes, then questions about what's going on recently. I'll talk about that. And the second part of the board meeting will be devoted to strategic planning, where we will focus on the strategic plan for the Pro-Truth Pledge that we have been working on. A number of people on this phone call have been working on it, and we will talk about that. Bentley Davis, the chair of the PTP Central Coordination Committee, will talk about the strategic plan, and followed by questions about it. So
Yeah, I'm just going to look away because I'm also a secretary and taking notes.
yes, I guess we'll take notes.
I'm not being rude.
Great.
Love you.
So we've had some pretty good news coverage recently, and I want to start with that. We've had news coverage, our biggest news coverage ever, I would say, was a prominent piece featuring the Pro-Truth Pledge and Intentional Insights in Newsweek. And so that was really great. We got some good feedback from that, good participation, good hits to the Pro-Truth Pledge websites. A number of people came to the Pro-Truth Pledge website, so that was exciting. So that was really good. And we got some other news coverage as well. So that was all doing quite nicely. I presented at the Columbus Metropolitan Club, which is kind of a high-profile venue. And so we got some nice news coverage here in the Columbus area as a result of that. And so that's going well, some news coverage, and we'll talk a little bit more about news coverage in the planning stage for the Pro-Truth Pledge. And so that was one thing, but news coverage is going well. We've been working on some content, and so we got some good content relating to the fake news awards. which were recently given out by President Donald Trump. And we had a lot of good news interviews, feedback around that content. Something interesting is that we're having more artistic activities going on. So Harry Hirsch collaborated with some folks to put a poem he wrote for the Intentional Insights to music. So we have kind of the first song written on behalf of Intentional Insights. So that was pretty cool. I personally want to mark that. And so that's been some stuff. Now, so that's kind of more of external stuff, external output. The things that I'm most excited about, though, are not those external outputs, however awesome they are. The things I'm most excited about are the internal things that we've been doing. So after the elections, we have started to evaluate the strategies that we've been working on with the Pro-Truth Pledge, which is the major project that we're focusing on. We're probably focusing about 75% of Intentional Insights resources on the Pro-Truth Pledge and related political themed activities. And so we have decided to do some strategic planning, which we'll talk about in the second part of the meeting. But we've been focusing, the people at the higher level of Intentional Insights, the people in leadership positions have been focusing a great deal of energy and effort on that, on strategic planning and setting out the goals for 2018 and 2020. So for November 2018 and November 2020, which are the election periods of election in the United States, at least. So we've been working on that. We've also been working on setting up more structured volunteer processes. So we've been working on creating some mentoring for our volunteers who are engaged in creating, doing signature gathering, and as part of that, starting up local chapters of the Pro-Truth Pledge around the country. So that's something I'm excited about. Another thing I'm excited about is committees that we have set up to create, to specifically do outreach to targeted demographics of public figures who we think are promising. One is the political targeting committee run by Alex. Another one is the business targeting committee run by Agnes. And there's another one run by Randy Grine, who I don't think is on this phone call, but it's the committee devoted to cultivating political candidates once they have taken the Pro-Truth Pledge to make sure that they use it. And we've also been working on experimenting on figuring out how to do business outreach. And Gary Monty, who's on this phone call, on this video conference call, has been taking point on that. So that's pretty much the main things that have been going on with Intentional Insights. And now I want to see about any questions that you might have and ways that we can answer them. So at this point, you're welcome to unmute yourself if you want to ask a question, or ask a question in chat if that's your preferred way of asking a question.
I had some, can you hear me?
Yes, Karen, we can hear you.
Okay.
And for everyone else, Karen is our organizer, local Pro-Truth Pledge chapter organizer for Fort Worth and Dallas.
Yes.
And I think you recently had so you're participating in the mentoring program. You recently had your first mentoring call.
I did. I was up in Denton on Sunday. There was a reunion for the resistance, and I attended, and I met with one of the candidates for the Railroad Commission for Texas, and he thought he had signed the pledge, but I'm not sure if he has or not, but he's willing if he has not. And also another person approached me. I was wearing my T-shirt, and she wants one. So I need to get some of the T-shirts because people want them.
Excellent. So, Agnes, can you make a note to send a link to merchandise to Karen? So
Yes.
that, yeah, Karen.
Actually, I just want to mention that for anyone, if you go to protruthpledge.org, I'll send a link. It's protruthpledge.org/merchandise. And that's all. And there's a number of things. And something to know that if you want to get something in a different color or design, you can adjust it later. So if you want like a blue or a pink or green sweater or shirt or anything you want, The website allows you to customize it. Like I got myself a glittery sweatshirt. But
Yeah, I got the
Another-
light blue shirt, so yeah, you can,
oh,
you can
nice.
design.
Yeah,
it
and
sort
we
of,
get a percentage of these sales. So I was wondering, it says, oh, somebody ordered a medium-sized sweater. I'm like, I wonder who, because we get money. But yeah,
Great.
Gleb is going to type it right now.
I'll share that definitely.
Yeah, pertruthpledge.org/merchandise.
Yep, it's in the chat right now.
Yeah, and
That's great because that way I don't have to carry a stock of them with me. They
Exactly.
can do it on their own.
Exactly.
yeah,
And
definitely.
then they can choose. You don't know what size they want, or what color, so they can all choose their own.
Yeah, it's a good idea. You don't have to. Yeah.
Yeah, and
That's
if
nice.
you're not sure whether if they're not sure whether they signed it, it will never hurt to put them in again. We'll delete it. Look at it.
I'll contact him
Yes.
again.
Wonderful. And Gary Monty had a question for you. So he asked what kind of weight the Railroad Commission carries.
I really don't know.
They do manage all the oil in Texas
the oil and the transportation, I believe,
and the transportation.
the
Yeah,
highways and things like that. I think.
Yeah, I did some consulting with them, and my understanding was, in terms of infrastructure, they're the big dog when it comes to infrastructure. So if you got people high up in the Railroad Commission to take the pro-truth pledge, that would seem to be quite significant based on my limited experience with them.
Great. Good news. So please do make sure to reach out to those people.
I sure will. I've got his business card.
Wonderful.
Gleb, I just wanted to say I apologise for having fallen behind on promoting the Pro-Truth Pledge in the Netherlands. As you know, I was going through some health problems.
Of course.
And my wife has been saying she doesn't want me to commit to any more volunteer work until I've found a source of income. But as soon as I have found a source of income, I will get back to you and start trying to commit to more volunteer work there again. There was one other thing I was curious about. You may remember you printed a story about Donald Trump having forbidden the use of certain words in...
Yes, in the CDC. Yep, the Trump administration.
A Facebook friend of mine responded by saying he thought that that was inaccurate reporting. And I tried to get clarity on that in the Intentional Insights Truth Seeking Club, and I don't think anyone responded to that. Do you have any insight to offer into that at all? Like, was that a mistaken news story, or was it accurate? Or
Sure. I created a couple of videos on that question on the Dr. Gleb Sapolsky page.
I can link them. I will
Yes.
add them to
So
the Facebook group right now.
Agnes will add them to the Facebook group. So she's going to
the
provide them.
collaborative truth seeking group? Yeah, good. I'll take a look. Yeah, thanks very much, because I would like to continue that conversation. But yeah,
Of course. Excellent. Thank you, Rupert.
good.
And thank you for intending to take up the banner once you're in a more stable financial position. Yes, I think Karen was in that situation recently, and until she found a job and settled into a new house, so she's now more able to take point on doing organizing in Dallas and Fort Worth. Excellent.
Good.
Other questions?
I've got a comment here, Gleb.
Go ahead. Please, Gary.
I was in New Albany today, which is a suburb of Columbus. And then I'm working on the business aspect of the pledge, and I'm trying to move towards, you might be familiar with Limited Brands, and the chairman is Les Wexner and all that. Well, he's so far removed. I mean, I don't have a snowball's chance in hell to get to him, but I'm trying to be the little train that could. And so I've been talking with people to see if there's a way to work up the food chain. And it's very interesting. I'm running into the same thing. Gleb and I have talked about this, and Agnes has been part of it too. For those of you interested in the business side, 100%, I am consistently running into a shyness because there's a real concern about how the business person's image would look if they got on board with the Pro-Truth Pledge. And basically, it's like, are you a bunch of wackadoos that wear tinfoil hats? I mean, I'll give you the short version of it. And I just wanted to report back once again, the guy is going to work. He knows some people on the Chamber of Commerce and also that run New Albany. But he told me, he said, I'll work with you. And he said, I may choose not to work with you. We can have a conversation. But he was very frank in saying this has to be a very deliberate conversation because business people just aren't out there the way political people are. And snail's pace would be the phrase that comes to mind in doing this. It's very frustrating because I'm a very frank person. It's like, well, if you believe in this, why don't you sign the damn thing forward? You know?
Sure.
If any of you are working on the business side, that's probably what you're going to run into. And Kip Morris, who's the president of the Better Business Bureau of Columbus, he told Gleb and I he's running into the same thing, that I don't know that I want my brand associated with the Pro-Truth Pledge, and at least on the business side. Maybe personally they would sign it, but so anyway, don't be surprised if you try from the business end to run into resistance, because that's really all I'm getting right now. Or slowness. I'll be more positive about it. It's just moving slowly.
Thank you, Gary. Yes, indeed. It's a challenge, as Gary was pointing out, to reach the businesses. So Kip Morse, who's the head of the Better Business Bureau here in Central Ohio, has been a big ally and help in that. So if any of you wants to reach out to businesses, I would encourage you to first start with your local Better Business Bureau, because that's quite aligned with the Pro-Truth Pledge, and Kip Morse can probably provide an introduction. So if you want to do that, you feel free to reach out to me. You can reach out to me on Facebook or on my email, and I can provide an introduction to Kip Morse, and that can be the next step wherever you happen to be for you to reach out to businesses.
Hey, Gleb, I got a question. The hook that we have is the character development program that the Better Business Bureau has. Do you know if that's just local to the greater Columbus area, or is that a national effort by the Better Business Bureau?
It's a national effort. So they have, it's part of a broader brand that the Better Business Bureau is doing to build up character and trust as part of it. So that's kind of the inroad for the Pro-Truth Pledge into the business sector through trust. Yes, and for context, the most effective inroads into business that we've gotten have been through the business of media. So we've had a number of media professionals and leaders sign the Pro-Truth Pledge, but they, of course, have additional reason to do so. Okay. Other questions, comments? Rachel asked, when someone who has signed the pledge as a private citizen then goes on to run for office, this applies. So we actually have a situation right now with someone in Salt Lake City, Utah, who signed the Pro-Truth Pledges and is now running for office. We're just updating their information in the back end, changing them to a public figure. The same would apply if somebody who was a private citizen becomes a public figure. So, for example, if we had an undergraduate student sign the Pro-Truth Pledge, and then she graduated and became a talk show host, a journalist, she would become a public figure. And at that point, she would be considered a public figure for the sake of the pledge.
And I have a question at that point. Do we just look up her information being, oh, well, she's now a talk show host, or do we contact her and be like, well, what do you want us to include? So that, like...
Oh, yeah, if she is listed in the, if she indicated that she wants to be listed in the public database, then she would just automatically be listed as a public figure once we find out she's a public figure.
But
so
otherwise, somebody would need to tell us, or to contact her and be like, don't you want to be a public figure?
Right.
Now?
If she did not indicate she wants to be listed in the public database, then it would need to be a separate step. Hey, now you're running for office. Do you want to be listed in the public database? All right, I'm going to count back from 5 for last questions. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. and then turning it over to Bentley to give a brief description of the strategic plan for the Pro-Truth Pledge, followed by questions. Please go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, so I just want to tell you a little bit about our strategic plan. This is for, as Gleb said, for 2018 and all the way to 2020. So we kind of have two plans, one for the next 12 months about, and then one for the next several years, which also, like you said, covers the election cycles in the U.S. And that's where we're hoping to have a lot of impact on the politicians and on the discourse that happens during this election season. So just to give you an idea of the goals we're looking for. So right now we have about 5,300 people that have signed, 51 organizations, 88 government officials. So with about 5,000 people, we've been doing this for several months now. We think that if we just kind of keep on the same pace for around November of 2018, we should have about 8,000 people that have signed the pledge. But we're hoping and we're expecting that we should get that up to 11,000, and that's where we can kind of use your help in promoting and keep talking about the pledge. And then, you know, kind of as a stretch goal, something we'd like to see is to get up to about 20,000. And we think we can do that with how things are expanding and with your help. Going on that same path, up all the way up to 2020, you know, if we just kind of stayed on the same rank, we'd still have about 20,000 people. We expect about 30, and you know, we could probably get 100,000 people by November 1st, 2020. So that's kind of our goal that we'd really like to get to. In the same area for the public figures, we're hoping by the end of this year that we'll have about 900 people sign up as public figures. And by 2020, maybe up to 2,400 public figures. That'd be great. We're hoping to get some prominent CEOs to sign up, some top media figures before 2020. We're also, you know, the pledge has been seen on a lot of like local news outlets and national news already. So we want to keep that up. So for local news, we're hoping for about 30 new local news segments this year. And by 2020, we hope to have about 90 or up to 100 ways of getting the word out. And we'll talk about some ways in the future on how we hope to get more news. And also in the national news, we hope to get some spots in the national news. Maybe, you know, if we're doing well, get to before the end of this year or before November 1st of this year, and maybe 6 to 10 before 2020. That could really accelerate, because once we get on a few, it's easier to get invited on other segments. We're also hoping to have some people willing to do some public presentations, where you might do it at a local Kiwanis club or at a group or a meetup that you have. We're hoping to get about 30 of those this year, and maybe 90 by 2020 to help get the word out. So those are kind of how we're going to affect. Those are external to the team. In order to make this happen, we'll need some volunteers to be helping out. We hope to have 30 volunteers working on the project by the end of November. By the beginning of November this year. We're going to be looking to have people volunteer and also have people help manage those volunteers and reach out and find people, because that's the way we'll get the word out, is with people. And then we're hoping by 2020 to have anywhere from 50 to 100 volunteers actively working several hours a week on the project. And that would really get the word out and really make a big change to society, that we want to have that impact. To achieve that, we have some fundraising goals that we'll be aiming for in order to make sure that we can fund those volunteers to go out and do things, provide them with supplies, making media to go out that can be done and can be used and to get people's attention. And a lot of those things just do take money. So we'll be looking for your continued support in the future, and we'll talk about different ways that you can support and different activities that you'll be supporting. We'll be achieving all those. We've set aside some some SMART goals. We've discussed. Let's see. So we have some goals on finding volunteers that we'll be looking and tapping people on the shoulder and asking them to help out. We've been looking at how we might be able to get on more publicity, get the word out more in the news channels. So we have some goals to do that and some deadlines that we hope to meet. A lot of it will be reaching out to people that are already active in the pledge and asking them for specific volunteers. So if you have any to us, be sure and let us know so we can make good use and have you help us bring civility up and the expectation of truth in our debates and our discussions, our political discussions. I think that's the basic specifics, and I can answer any questions anyone has.
Yeah, so now is a good time. If you have any questions, you can feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions, or as previously, you can type them in the chat.
Yeah, Gleb, I got a question.
Yes, Gary.
I would really like to connect with other people that are working on the business approach to see if we can brainstorm more about what works and what doesn't work because of this snail's pace regarding business. Because I'd like to think if we can get a collective, someone will find something that catches fire or cracks through the veneer. And there's no way of knowing where that comes from. It's just one person. If we get a group, then we're kind of like all banging our heads together to break through. So I really would like to connect with people across the country or in Central Ohio, anywhere that are working on the business aspect.
Yeah. So thank you for asking that question, Gary. So one of the things we have is we have a number of people who are involved in business and who do want to help, but who have difficulty, who are busy with other activities that they're doing, and we need someone to be taking initiative and point on this. So if you want to take point on this, reaching out to them and soliciting their feedback, opinions, encouragement, I can get you in touch with them, and so for you to be the one taking point, if that's something you're comfortable with.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, so Agnes, make a point for me to reach out to, on that point. So Gary, I'll talk to you about that later after the meeting.
Okay.
About what that would involve. Excellent. Thank you.
There are two questions.
So thank you, Gary. So that's an example of how someone can choose to take initiative and responsibility for a specific area of outreach. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Rachel asks for mentoring program. So we have mentoring specifically for people who want to gather signatures so either gather signatures and then create after that a local pro-truth pledge chapter. Is that the kind of thing that you would be interested in doing, Rachel? Excellent. So then I will make a point for myself. I will get you in touch. I will talk to you on chat, and then we will see about. I will see about getting you in touch with a mentor. Excellent. Thank you for taking initiative on that. That's great. Much appreciated. Other folks, comments, questions, clarifications, follow-up? I'll count back from 5, and again, type in the chat or unmute yourself and ask questions if you have them. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you participating in this in an open board meeting, and really appreciate you contributing your time, your money, and your social network, your social capital to advancing the Pro Truth Pledge and other intentional insights activities. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.